Welcome back to wagertalk.com. This is the video where you ask the questions, we answer them. And we're going to get it started off with Brock Landers wants to know, what are your feelings on run lines in baseball, and what percentage of your plays a year do you do the run line, if any? And it's a great question because just in the last video, I gave a run line selection. I don't do a lot of them simply because I don't like laying a run and a half. But for me, Preston, if I'm going to lay the run and a half, I've got to have a lot of factors that I'm looking at. First of all, I'm going to look at the over-under, and that's going to be an indicator whether or not we're even going to mess with a run line. You know, you can have Kershaw on the mound and he's laying 300, but you're looking at an over-under of 5.5. There's not a lot of value in trying to save the money and do, you know, yeah, he might only give up a run, but you might be looking at a 2-1 game or a 3-2 game based on what they're expecting with the scoring. But if you're looking at a game where the over-under's, 9.5, 10, 10.5, you're going to get a lot of scoring in that, and you've got more opportunity to look at getting the margin for the two. And you've got to also look at your bullpens and see, you don't want to lay a run and a half if your bullpen got torched the night before and you had to use them for, a good period of time. You want to make sure that if your starter leaves the game with a 2 or 3 run lead, that the bullpen's not, your closer's there to not give up that meaningless run in the ninth inning and have you, which those are always fun if you do a run line. You're up 4-2 and, they give the first guy gets on and, he manages to find his way around just because they'll give up the run for the out.
They'll usually concede second base too because they're already up a couple runs, and then one hit or a wild pitch or something and a sac fly and they're scoring. But yeah, you definitely have to look at all the circumstances, and you definitely have to look at the totals. So if you're looking to bet run lines, whether it's -1.5 or +1.5, look at the totals. I generally, if I ever do bet them, two parts to this question. One, for me, it would be a +1.5 more often than laying a -1.5. It'd usually be if there's, I think there's some inherent blind value if you can get a home team +1.5 at plus money. I think blind that hits historically. There's just some spots where it makes sense, and you have to be able to actually kind of do the math and engage. And there's probably some charts you can find online, or if you want to ask me in the future, I can give you, what. Like you were talking about that Boston Red Sox play, what -220 is supposed to be on the run line. And if it's 20 cents worse, because a lot of times they kind of make you pay a premium to lay the run line, then it's not going to be worth betting. You actually would be better off just laying -220. So you have to look at all the circumstances, like I said, but a lot of times I think you get some value on the underdog or the +1.5 more so than the actual favorite. So the times that I have ever really used run line regularly, it's been on that side of it. But one thing I do when I do like a favorite and I don't want to lay, a full 200, this is something that a lot of people probably are familiar with, maybe not, but you can bet -1s and +1s. And a lot of books don't offer it. I think there's not a preset -1 or +1 that you can bet, but you can kind of manually create your own by betting half of your amount on the money line and half your amount on the run line. And so, if they win by 1, you win your money line bet, you lose your run line, that's like a push. You break even. If they win by 2 or more, then you win both bets. So it's instead of 220 versus -120 run line, you more or less half that. So you're laying -170 on a -1. It's not exactly that number, but you ultimately are getting a cheaper version of a run line, and you're getting that push. So it's a little more expensive than, more expensive than a run line, but it's cheaper than just laying the full money line in the 200. So I've done that primarily when I do bet favorites that I don't want to lay, the 200s or whatever. So that's something worth looking at. And you can do it for dogs the reverse way. If there's a dog that's +220, but you get +1.5 at +120 or something, then you can do a +1 that's +160 or 70. And you get some of that money line if they win outright, and if they lose a close one, then you break even and you're okay.
In looking at also situations where, and we said just before we went on the air, like the Boston White Sox game where we're talking, it's the final game of a series, and it's a getaway game for the road team. And a lot of times teams won't put their best lineup out there. They'll rest a star player on getaway day, playing a day game after a night game or things like that. So those are also factors in there where you might get a team not at full strength that it's worth laying the 1.5. Sure. So again, each game, look at it on its individual basis. Since we went that deep into that question, we're just going to make that one by itself, and we're going to go to a part 2 with the question and answers, and we'll answer a couple more questions in the next video. And guys, don't forget, every week, Tuesdays at Wager Talk, it's $2 Tuesday. We pick one capper. We offer his best bet for that day for just $2. It's a great way to try out Wager Talk if you've never have before, or a way to try a new capper. Check it out each and every Tuesday. It's $2 Tuesday at Wager Talk. We'll be back with more question and answers.